They've moved into targeting the Nautilus, something that's definitely could cause issue for the Jinx. Good setup on that one. Be interested to do if they ban away Aphelios, who's, something we've seen into the Jinx a ton in spring and is quite high priority. Definitely have an opportunity to really thin the pool out here and move it down to some of those lower prior AD carries. I'd expect that here. Whereas AL, they're just looking towards the mid laners, have banned away that Talia, which we've seen to pretty solid effect from a bunch of teams. It'll be interesting to see if they also go for something like maybe a Corki ban. They'll give a lot of power to the backline of TT. And TT actually banning Bard from QiuQiu, which he has played the split.
Yeah, he's played it twice. 100% win rate. 29 KDA on the Bard for QiuQiu. It's not necessarily a bad I was expecting coming in today, but I understand the respect going towards QiuQiu. And QiuQiu, I bet he's got a smile on his face after that, because there's not many players that historically can pull a Bard ban, and he's now entered that category.
And well deserved. After, I have to admit, the performance he had before, constantly setting up those ganks, making it happen, particularly in a mobile AD carry like a Jinx, really threatened by the ultimate for setup. Now, we do see that Corki ban come through, and now it's up to Ucal to see what he's going to pick in the situation. Ari being toyed with as an option, but obviously Sylas does have a good matchup. Was one of those things we saw picked into it initially. We'll see what they opt to go for. It does look like they might just be leaving the support for counter pick though.
I love Anyone's Legend so much. Like, you are sick of Corki as the meta? Well, Anyone's Legend are too, batting both of them away. It's answered by this Viktor in the end versus Sylas in the mid lane. Now over to Anyone's Legends bot lane, who Ezreal's available, Misfortune is available, both of which Anyone's Legend have 100% win rate on. And Betty averaging a 29 KDA between those two picks, but instead they go towards this Senna instead. We saw the Senna clip earlier on. We've seen that Betty knows what he's doing on this point.
Yeah, and I really like it in this situation. Long range, which I think is necessary when you're playing into Jinx, Viktor. You have a lot of dive potential with your team. And so if you can scale up, you can fire your ult across the top when Wukong connects, can put you in a good position. But I love this from TT as an adaptation. This is the power of the counter pick for support, because AL committed to the Senna and the Tahm. You know that you can pick an enchanter into it quite comfortably. So now I was talking about the dive potential, the backline threat. What better pick than a Lulu to try and mitigate that and lock it down?
Yeah, exactly. Protection for Kepler, but also kind of bolstering Kepler, right? Giving some movement speed, make sure that he can take over in the team fights. And it definitely feels like TT are saying, look, we need late game prowess. We talked about how TT exceptionally good in the early game, not so much later on. It's interesting to see them drafting very much for the later stages of the game here, with a Jinx and a Viktor as the crux of their composition.
Yeah, a lot of scaling elements, but in fairness, I feel like AL also have a decent amount on their side. I really feel like if either team can get a lead, it's obviously going to make things a lot easier, and TT have been the team known to do so. So maybe this is the adaptation that makes well. If you're confident that you'll be able to get a lead against AL, which based on what we've seen so far should be the case, why not invest into some carries that will pay dividends when you get to that point?
Yeah, definitely the case. I'm kind of curious about these lady faces, because we've got scaling on both sides, as you say, but TT have typically gone for advantages in the early game. They've been aggressive regardless of what the lock-ins are. Like, we've seen this Jinx from Kepler. It's not necessarily slowed TT down, so we'll have to wait and see if they do still keep that aggression up. But over on the side of AL, I feel like they definitely have a harder composition to pull off here, right? There's a lot more moving pieces, like things like the Gangplank and the Sylas can be quite difficult for some teams to pull off.
Yeah, I think the big thing is that with AL, a lot of it's going to rely on Xiaohao getting on the backline, not being disrupted by the Poppy, by the Lulu. Forge as well, as much as Sylas is, incredibly effective, incredibly high prior right now, if you get caught in a polymorph, you can get bursted, can get blown up. So I feel like in team fights, they have, as you said, higher beard of execution, but given what we've seen so far, I think they kind of will flourish with that.
Well, we're on to the map here, and straight out of the bat, straight out of the gates, straight out of the bat. I don't think you can get inside the bat, but Anyone's Legend trying to make some plays on the top side. Hoya not going to fall for it. He's just going to be chilling in the tri-brush, so we end up with a standard level 1. And the only vision that I can see right now is defensive vision coming out from AL just around that pixel brush.
And it looks like we might just have both teams leaning into, standard clear, see what you can make happen on the map. I think expectation, bot lane, the fact that you have the Lulu and the Jinx should be quite comfortable for Kepler and YaoYao. We often see Jinx get the early prio. But the fact you have double range should make it easier, and particularly for the Tahm Kench, you have to walk up to get that CS, and every time you do, you're gonna get harassed, you're gonna get poked out. It is gonna be not the most enjoyable laning experience for Betty and Chocho.
Yeah, I mean, such is the nature of Senna Tahm Kench as well, right? Like, you're not really locking this one in to dominate the laning phase. I do want to quickly talk about kind of TT in the picture of this split so far, though, Aux, because when you look at the schedule so far for TT, it has been a fairly tough one, right? They start the whole split having to face V5, but they've already faced LNG, JDG, EDG, some of these really big names. And then when they've gone against teams like IG, teams like BLG, teams like WE that are towards the lower end of the standings, they've actually pulled out wins. I'm cautiously optimistic for what we might see from TT today. And as we said before, the early game statistics speak for themselves. Hoya, though, not having a good time of it to start this laning phase up against ZDZ.
Yeah, this is one of the issues with having the Gnar into the Gangplank, is the fact that, you know, you're so short range to that mini Gnar early, you can just get harassed. The Gangplank can keep parlaying you with those grass procs, so not as fun for now, but obviously later on when you get access to your abilities, when you can threaten Mega, it does get a bit easier. You can see, though, mid lane, Ucal trading heavily into Forge and bot lane. As expected, Kepler and YaoYao with complete control over the lane as of now.
Feels like bot definitely going to be winning for TT so far. You can see mid lane, Ucal with that range advantage. Sylas for the first couple of levels doesn't have many good matchups. Like, until you get your full kit available to you, can be a little bit tough. So Ucal feeling the benefit of that for the time being, but this is somewhat to be expected, right? That AL, it's not the insane laning phase that we're necessarily expecting them to bring out. So then the question comes, Aux, like, at what point do we anticipate AL really start to get on the board? When is it that they start to really kick the game off?
I feel like it's normally like in the mid to late game team fights that they start to flourish. You know those big ones when you're talking about like dragons leaning towards third, fourth, and the soul and stuff? Even with a deficit, that feels like when they're like, okay, we know how to approach this, we know how to find it. And I think there's a lot of times where, you know, as you said, this comp a bit tricky to execute in the team fights. They've managed to find the windows to make it happen. Now we can take a look at how the junglers sort of panned out so far. You can see Xiaohao not really going to be able to find anything in the top lane, but he's just making sure ZDZ has support and isn't punished. Whereas with Beichuan on the bot side, he's given some cover over towards Ucal. He even slammed a ward down on the Raptors of Xiaohao for when they respawn. You can actually see, if you look at the bot side of the map, the bot river, quite a bit of vision established for TT. One ward did just time out, but definitely doing a good job protecting their pushing lanes.
Yeah, and interestingly, Beichuan not going for the reset like Xiaohao did. You can see Xiaohao with a couple of long swords there. Beichuan returning to his jungle, picking up his raptors as they spawn. You can see his wolves and his gromp available as well. So he's basically just going straight into his second clear and skipping the reset entirely.
Yeah, and picking up those raptors, because obviously he started on them, so they have the early respawn. And now in a position where he can just clear up those camps in his blue side jungle. Both junglers got a Scuttler piece, so no real advantage gain there. But you can see in the top lane, some heavy trading actually came out before, and Hoya managing to force TP from ZDZ. Both mid laners TPing as well, but nothing too crazy has happened. And honestly, I feel like it's kind of tricky for ganks to happen earlier on unless someone's like massively overextended or out of position. So just expect this passage of play to follow. We do eventually see Beichuan going for that reset, looking to pick up some items.
I mean, when you think of Poppy and Wukong as well, it's not like these are champions that you think, okay, early ganking constantly. Oh, Hoya's in trouble in the top side. Massive damage coming out from ZDZ. Flash available, as well as that passive for ZDZ. But Hoya, I think, will be safe. He's about to turn Mega Gnar, so just needs to play it a little further away, but just walks up and takes a Q to the face. So I guess he's not bothered. It doesn't even get the melee minion. Oh, it's a disaster for Hoya, and he's just having a terrible time of it in the top side.
Yeah, it's really because we've seen back and forth trades, but ZDZ resets and gets the Sheen, which gives him the advantage in that 1v1, and then Hoya holds his TP. He has to TP back though now. The wave is pushing away from him. He needs the items. You see he picks up some plated steel caps just for that extra defensive stats against those parlays, and now should be able to try and push this wave. And it does mean if Xiaohao wants to go top and make his life hell, he could look for it, but it appears that won't be the case. In the meantime, TT gonna try and pick up the dragon, but we do see actually AL moving to respond here.
I'm kind of surprised, honestly. They had prio in bot and mid. This felt safe for TT, but AL will deny it. They move in, and TT responding, kind, moving away, accepting that this ain't their Drake. So AL, I feel like pulling that one out. I'm kind of amazed, honestly, that they managed to grab that Drake for themselves.
Yeah, I think one of the problems with it is it's a Cloud Dragon, which obviously does a ton of damage. And also, Beichuan, because he started it early and didn't get help until later, he ended up really low on HP. You can see he was at like 30% at that point. And it just meant AL could walk in. TT instantly knew if they stayed around, Beichuan would get blown up and then the rest of them would follow. Remember, as much as the laning has been going good, in those skirmishes, Sylas is going to outvalue a Viktor. Tahm Kench is quite bulky, quite powerful in the early fights. And so I think TT kind of win that mindset. If we have prior, we can do what we want. And AL willing to call them out on it.
Yeah, that's good to see as well, especially against a team that typically has had exceptionally good early game stats. TT, really strong focus on finding a lead early, but so far this game, that's not happening. And just take a look at the gold right now. It's 1,000 in favor of AL, despite the fact that there are no kills so far. AL just outvaluing across the map.
Yeah, we see big gap in the jungle. I remember Beichuan invested a lot of time clearing that dragon and also delayed his reset quite heavily. So whereas Wukong picked up those early long swords, was able to get clear in the jungle, Beichuan has fallen behind in the matchup in top lane. We saw the heavy trading before, ZDZ finding an advantage there. And the fact that both these teams have scaling elements, if one of them manages to get that extra goal come online sooner, it's going to make all the difference.
Yeah, he certainly will. We'll see which team's going to be able to find that significant advantage. But first straight taken by AL. First Herald, however, up in 7 seconds. We're not seeing any of those customary bottom lane resets, though, to try and swap up for an 8-minute Herald. Looks like it'll be a little bit slower than that one today, or perhaps just going to be, you can see Xiaohao and ZDZ moving towards that. A couple of pings did come down, but there is a ward just outside the Baron pit from, I assume, Hoya there, so...
Oh, no, we'll get spotted. Oh, it does.
Whew. I thought that was going to be disaster for Xiaohao there for a second, but he spots the vision, he clears it, and Beichuan sees the opportunity for a crossback.
Yeah, and you see at this point, actually, AL's bot lane doing a lot better in the 2v2. You feel like at this point, the sustain kind of kicks in from the Tahm Kench, from the Senna, and the harass from a double range bot lane just isn't enough. And Hoya trying to do what he can to slow this down, but we'll see if they actually make it happen here. Remember, we have now the ultimate from the Wukong, and Forge grabs the Gnar ultimate. I would not want to mess with that.
No, but it's a 2v3 because Beichuan just sends one flying away. It wasn't the jungler, though, so Xiaohao grabs himself that Herald. It was a little tense. I wasn't sure if we were going to get a 3v3 up on the top side there, but TT, once again, end up conceding the objective. That's 2 objectives in a row now that TT, attend the play, but don't commit to fight.
Yeah, for a team who we praise for their early dominance, not looking too hot so far. I think essentially the reason why they couldn't really contest that one is Hoya was nowhere near Mega Gnar, and obviously that's the power of the Sylas, is that you can steal the ultimate and have it whenever. And also the Viktor, as much as he's had a decent time in the laning phase, still not really that impactful in the skirmishes compared to these other picks going around. So TT don't opt into it. And now this is, as you said, second objective. They've just stared down and had to give up.
Yeah, not ideal for TT. And, when you think about teams like TT and Anyone's Legend, like historically in the LPL, you'd see this in the standings or you'd see this in the schedule and you think, okay, it's going to be an absolute fiesta. It's going to be a bloodbath. But this split is different because this is such an important game. This is such an important series for both of these teams as Kepler narrowly dodges the route, takes a big old trade from Betty there. Not ideal in the 2v1 there. But you can see that this matters so much. Both teams in with a shot of playoffs. AL in with a shot of a reasonable standing in playoffs. And they need to prove it in matchups like this. The recall from ZDZ looks like it'll be cancelled, and immediately Cannon Barrage onto the wave. ZDZ wants to survive, but dive, flashes, Gnar lands, but the Dawning Shadow shields him. ZDZ still alive. Hoya under the tower. One more shot will not go through. TT pull off the dive.
And Ucal stops the teleport from Forge. It could have been an absolute disaster if he was able to make it in. But TT playing with fire, but managed to secure it. But now AL looking for the counterplay on the bot side.
Xiaohao knows he needs to make this happen. Damage across 2 of them. There's a TP coming in. 1 down already, though, as Chocho saves his jungler. And the TP cancelled. We get a match in the mid lane as Betty now looks for YaoYao. I don't think they'll find any more, but they will find an opportunity to herald down in this bot lane for a Senna of all champions.
I just find it so hilarious. We saw the back-to-back cancels coming out. Here's the first one. Viktor's ult does stop channels here, so able to cancel it. And I believe Forge actually stole away Ucal's ult to do the same in reverse, because Ucal was teleporting under his tower. And, you know, Forge grabbed the Viktor ult and did the same to him, which is honestly just hilarious package of play.
What are the odds? What are the odds that that passage of play occurs? It is going to mean that there's a small window for a Dragon here. Is it the ult steal as the TP comes in? He did. I thought he was going to E forwards there. I thought those changes were the E. No, it was the hijack. So denies it the exact same way. So the mid laners kind of eyeing each other up across the rift right now.
Yeah, and honestly, a good call to steal the ult and go for that. I think if you eat on the tower, not entirely sure he would have made it out again. Definitely probably would have to burn flash at least. But either way, both mid laners shut down for TPs. It could have really allowed those plays to backfire if either had gone through. The end result is TT get what they want in the top lane, but AL gets significantly more in the bot lane because of that earlier herald, able to slam it down. And something to mention is that because of the Senna being so much lower in gold because it is that fasting Senna, getting plates for her is absolutely fantastic and really allows you to just be more relevant into the mid game.
I mean, any lethality user, right, can get massive value out of the plates just because their items are so cheap. And like you say, Senna gets so much gold from her passive as well that getting those plates on top kind of accelerates that and makes up for the lack of CS, as you're saying. So really nice for AL to get that opportunity and set Betty up, because we talked about Betty Senna. It's a bit of a powerhouse. We've seen some serious late game team fighting come out from this Senna. And I will say, you know, when we talked about these two teams at the start of the day and our expectations of how they play, this is not the pace of game that I was necessarily anticipating. But when you look at the drafts coming in, it makes a lot of sense that we're going a little slow. But as I say that, TT all pile into the top side. ZDZ respects it, though. He'll be okay. He'll walk away with his life.
Yeah, just have the ult, just as I say, able to clear out the wave with that. And actually just able to walk up, because obviously with the wave gone, no real threat of a dive. And so won't miss too much, able to defend. And I think ultimately, as much as compositionally, I don't think TT are too worried about taking this later. I still feel like just AL's excellence in team fights does give me some cause for concern, especially since, you know, AL got that first dragon. Soul stacking is going to be delayed for TT. They have the gold lead right now. And you can see with a minute till the next herald, AL are looking to set up on that side of the map. Bear in mind, they've taken that bot lane tier 1. You can see Kepler picking up the wave from where he is. They can easily just send down ZDZ to the bot side to answer the wave and then put their bot lane in the place they want to play for around this second herald.
And you can see Xiaohao now using that sweeper to make sure vision control belongs to AL before the herald even spawns. Betty, Chocho shoving this wave in the top side, and actually won't really be answered. They might just be able to grab a tower for themselves.
Yeah, I don't think there's really a position to defend. You can see TT look like they might just be making a cross-map play onto this bot side. ZDZ, no ult available or flash, so I think it might just be too late.
Yeah, this is a tough one for ZDZ. Knocked up slightly there. There's a rocket coming in from Kepler. I mean, that's clean. That's clean from TT. You like to see it, but now a play in the mid lane as well. Hoya slammed against the wall of the dawning shadow. The Gnar has been out-Gnar'd in the mid lane.
Beautiful play coming out, and Betty really sharp again with that ultimate. And a big thing to note is they got the kill on ZDZ, but there was no wave left. So new wave has now come in. They're finally getting a tower, but they lose 2 on the top side. And it just feels like AL are getting the edge in all these trades. TT, the team who at 15 minutes are second in the lead for goal difference, are 3,000 gold down.
I will say, they're also third in the league. The wins went behind 15. Let's take another look at the mid lane play. I feel like AL just winning across the map.
Yeah, and Forge, it looks close, but he just manages to connect onto the corner of the wall. Gets a 50% increased damage, benefiting from that 150% AP ratio. And yeah, just deletes the Gnar. And the support from Betty, really fantastic. So now, 3,000 gold lead, as was said. A dragon in a minute. And I think AL at this point, you feel confident just to lean into sweeping up all those objectives as you can.
Certainly do, and that next one going to be up in 50 seconds as well. So we are starting to get some items in across the board. Right? Kraken Slayer there for Kepler. You can see the crown as well in the mid lane for Ucal. But I feel like, especially on the side of TT with the Jinx and the Viktor, you need a lot more than just an item apiece before you're going to start firing on all cylinders. Whereas Sylas, I feel like with an Everfrost, he's already starting to hit pretty hard. I might have to pause this conversation though as Beichuan moves up towards his top side. I think Forge will be fine.
Yeah, I do like the fact we have the crown for the Viktor. Obviously, the threat onto TT's backline is going to be these dives. And that's how I expect the team fights to play out. You know, you have Jinx and Viktor. You want them to stay safe. You have this big tanky front line. And it really comes down to AL to find angles, find avenues to approach. 10 seconds until that dragon. Mid prior is being contested. And that's going to be my question. How do AL approach this fight? Because despite the lead, they still want to find a fight where they're getting onto these pivotal carries.
QiuQiu moving forwards, taking quite a bit of damage from Kepler here, but he takes a return from Betty. In goes the Herald. Will be taken down, but ultimately got its charge off. The tower surviving, but check out ZDZ on the back. He's just hammering away on the second tier 2 of the game for AL. If he's able to finish that tower off, and by the looks of things, he will be with that Demolish proccing. That's 2 tier 2s taken by AL in 17 minutes, and now positioning on the Drake as well.
Yeah, importantly, the ones that give all the gold now. We do see ZDZ on a flank angle. Xiaohao looking at it as well.
Hoya's about to turn Mega Gnar, though. This could be good for TT if he can find a big ulti. Dawning Shadow across the team, but Hoya abandoned by his squad, forced to try and flash away to get over the wall. But batter up, baby. Beichuan denies any kills on his teammates.
Yeah, and it just felt like Hoya was so split from the team. AL making a great call to lean towards him. And as much as they don't get a kill, they secure what they want, which is the dragon. And on top of that, the fact they got that tier 2 in the bot lane, really everything going in favor of AL now. Forge still has that Gnar ultimate. It looks like TT will respect it and just give him some space.
And one of the crucial things as well is that, you know, getting those side towers, especially the tier 2s, makes it so much more difficult to defend the mid lane towers as well. Because now it's so easy for AL to gain access into the jungle of TT. It's so easy to start flanking that mid tier 1 tower. And at that point, it becomes real difficult for lone victors to defend. So the work is cut out for TT over the next few minutes, and we are starting to get into the territory where it's much more AL's strengths than TT's, right? We talked about TT's early game, not their mid game. Their mid and late, a lot of issues.
Yeah, and I feel like this is a game where they have to shine there and find the avenue for a comeback. And how they approach the team fights, how they approach the setup of these objectives will be the big thing. You know, you talked about how they can sort of push into those side lanes and lean into mid. That should be the goal for AL from this point. Looking to take down that tier 1 turret mid that will open up the map further and allow them to really set up deep vision for these objectives. And the thing is, they have 2 strong solo laners. That's what makes it really easy to play through. The fact that Forge is going to be able to find Prior on the side lane. ZDZ as well can just cut through the waves and cause some issues. Now, we did see Kepler had to burn his heal just in the bottom right corner off your screen.
Yeah, that heal going to be used, but I do just want to quickly talk about, you know, you're mentioning this composition and how it works from the side of AL. I want to go back to the point that Forge bringing this Sylas out once again. You know, he's played it 3 times so far this split, but this team heavily leaning on that Swain. I feel like the Swain has been a huge crux of the success AL have found this split. Beichuan, though, finding a flank in the mid lane. Betty trying to get towards his teammate. QiuQiu gobbles him up, but in comes the monkey spinning on around. TP's galore, and it's a great little fight for AL. There'll only be 1 pick, but maybe with a Dawning Shadow, maybe more. Gnar into the wall, and Beichuan flees for his life. That mid tower down into the ground as well, and AL in complete control.
Great turnaround from AL. They instantly dive in, and Forge with the stolen Gnar ultimate slams you into wall. They are looking towards the Baron. Beichuan has Smite and actually Hex Flash available, so they want to make sure he can't get towards the pit and try and go for a steal here.
Can Beichuan make it happen? QiuQiu says, I don't think so, buddy. He's playing bouncer outside of the pit, and Beichuan, he's had too many drinks to come in here. It's going to be a rocket, though. Oh, that's a little too close for comfort, but AL will grab themselves that Baron now utter control. And look at how much the gold lead has skyrocketed. 7,000 gold lead at the 20-minute mark now for AL.
Yeah, and it feels like AL hit their power point. The fact that they won the early game just makes it even better. And bear in mind, this is a team who has not lost a game when they have a lead at 15 minutes. And we're going to replay the team fight. The problem here is, you know, Beichuan stuns QiuQiu to try and focus Betty, but the eat still comes out. And suddenly your bot lane isn't protected. Instantly we see Kepler blown up, and then the follow-up is there. The TPs from ZDZ and Forge in sync as a response. And ultimately, this isn't how TT want to be team fighting. They want to be protecting their backline, not having the poppy dive forwards. But you can see they're starting to feel desperate, and that desperation gave AL a window. There's now a 7,000 gold lead, and that's before they start making use of this Baron.
Yeah, and Drake coming up in about 90 seconds as well, as AL can start to really grasp control of this game. One thing I will say, Forge up in the top lane right now, trying to use the Baron in all 3 lanes. He doesn't have TP available. So maybe TT could find a small window of opportunity while Forge is away from the home.
Potentially an option if someone does overstep. I just feel like the problem with this TT composition is you're better at kiting backwards, and you don't have the best tools to punish. You know, Gnar is reliant on being mega. Poppy needs someone to be against a wall. You don't have like your typical LPL engaged supports like a Nautilus or Leona. And so it's harder to find windows, especially with the Tahm Kench there. This Tahm Kench really suffocating opportunities. And now we'll start pushing into the tower. The ult from the Poppy does knock not just Betty, but the whole wave as well.
I mean, look, it doesn't really achieve all of that much because the Baron's still going for another minute. We can keep this up all day on the side of AL, but it is fun to watch. Every single time Poppy just knocks a bunch of stuff away, it is entertaining. But, you know, Betty and JoJo can keep this push up all day long. Forge just moved over to help out as well. As you see now, Hoya gets an opportunity to push that top wave out. Maybe gets a tier 1 for his trouble, but it is going to be the mid-tier 2 now taken. This is the flank that we talked about. The pressure in the side lanes, meaning ZDC can flank that mid lane. And now, potentially a dive from AL. They want this tower badly, and I think they might just get it taken down immediately. And TT left wondering what on earth went wrong this game. They're going to trade a tier 1 in the top side, and they'll get a bounty off of it. But I'm not sure that's worth an inhibitor.
Yeah, not exactly the best trade by any means, but at least they get something, I guess, as a value. But AL, you saw how focused they were on getting that inhibitor because they know against the Jinx, against the Viktor, a lot of wave clear if you don't have the Baron. They wanted to crack the base and at least put some threat onto TT. They'll pick up a 3rd dragon for themselves, and now things look really painful. It's 7,000 gold lead still. Thanks to objective bounty, TT keep the lead there, but actually ZDZ might be caught out.
ZDC could be in trouble here. Chaos Storm ticking away, but he'll flash out. He'll be safe. And the rest of TT, the Rocket gonna go out. I mean, ZDZ's fine. He's fine. They get the Drake. They get the mid in here. They already had the side lane towers. Everything going the way of AL. The TT, not a crumb. Not a single crumb. They are Oliver Twist right now. They're asking for more. And they're being sent to their room with no supper.
And they need to work it out how they're going to respond to AL. They have 4 minutes because all I can say is if you get the Hextech Soul on picks like a Senna with that super long range, it's just done. There is no way you're making it back into the game after that. So they need to find an opportunity, a way to make it into the river, have contested vision, have your backline set up and safe, and then take the fight. And AL will be doing everything in their power to stop it. You can see, at least if you look at the bot side of the map, towards the jungle, there is a few control wards there. There is some vision for now, but I have no doubt that AL, when the dragon approaches, they'll start to lean towards that setup. But for now, the time being, they're still looking to push, still looking to apply pressure.
Yeah, I mean, for the time being, there's no... Oh, no, Hoya. You're on the wrong side of the map, buddy. ZDZ's going to chase it. How did he get here? How do we get to the... It's like record scratch. You're probably wondering how I got here. Hoya, slowly but surely being whittled down by ZDZ, who's playing for time because he knew Xiaohao was on the way. Hoya going to go... I mean, look, he's trying to cause a ruckus. He's looking for a minion wave. He'll find most of it, but at the end of the day, that's just another pick for AL.
YaoYao?
Pretending to be a statue. YaoYao thought he was safe. He was very, very wrong. Forge stealing the wild growth. Everfrost on in and takes the kill. Now Beichuan next on the chopping block as the Dawning Shadow finds 2 once more. And ZDZ arrives on the scene, forces the flash from Kepler. I mean, AL, they look indomitable.
Yeah, they have a super minion as well. They might honestly just try and push in an end here. Ucal is there to try and defend. He has to clear the wave as soon as possible.
He's going to try. Chaos Storm going to be used here. Supers have gone down. So now AL tanking the towers. But if they just kill the towers, they don't have to tank. And they can kill Kepler as well with the knockback to Beichuan. And Ucal desperately doing whatever he can. But I'm not sure there's anything left in the tank here. AL hammering away on the towers, but maybe having to back away. They've got a minion wave on in, but Hoya arrives, moves forward. The Gnar denied by Forge. Great flash there from Hoya. And I think TT will hold on for now. Denying vision, denying wards, and keeping their base alive.
Keeping the base alive for the time being, but they don't manage to take down any of the members of AL, and they will just back away, able to reset and set up for the dragon in 2 minutes. I want you to take a look at the summoners, Joe. Well, we'll do that after the replay. Everything burnt, essentially, but YaoYao tries to check the brush with the Glitter Lance, and just doesn't connect with where Forge is. And then Forge goes in. Doesn't mention as well, it's not just a knockup from the wild growth. It applies a slow on you when you're in range. So very hard for YaoYao to escape with the Everfrost as well. And AL are just able to chase him down. And now GT actually start the Baron. AL gonna respond, so they have to back off. I kind of like the play. I feel like when you're in this position, you have to go for these things.
Yeah, you do, but it doesn't stop it looking funny when you get caught out and everyone just dips immediately. They know that this is not a fight they can take anymore. Chocho knows that he can as he just dives into the enemy team. Everybody get a flee. Beichuan charges up the ult, cancels it in the end, so we'll still have that available for the next fight.
Yeah, and a minute 15 to the Dragon. I think AL could just play for it, but they are leaning towards that Baron. No hesitation here. TT have to try and approach this one, going down fairly quickly.
Look, at the end of the day, AL have 68% of the Barons taken in all of their games. That's the first in the league. That's higher than even V5's Baron control. And you can see it in this series, right? That's 2 Barons now on the board for AL. And Aux, I've got a feeling this second Baron is going to be enough for them to dot the I's and cross the T's.
Yeah, I mean, with 45 seconds till the Dragon, they should open up the map, head over to that Dragon area, get control, sweep out TT, take the Dragon, and then look to end on the back of the Baron, get that extra bonus from the Soul. And TT, I'm not sure what you can do in this situation. No summoners available across the board, none of the flashes at least. Kepler and Ucal without their flash, I just don't see a team fight being feasible, so I guess you just have to try and go for the base defense, which is rough. I'm just going to say it's rough. Not the easiest task to achieve.
Definitely not. And it's feeling very positive for AL as that next Drake is going to come online. And I just want to quickly go back to, like, how good of a split this feels for AL, right? They are looking fantastic in this game. They've been looking fantastic across the split. And when you look at some of the names on the roster, it feels good to see them having a good side, right? Players like Chocho, who started off on top esports, didn't really manage to mesh on that team. And, you know, alongside Betty, a player who's been in a few teams now at this point, but never quite felt like the player that's going to be the big carry. Forge, this short-range mid laner who feels like he's found this select pool of champions that really work for him. I feel like this roster is almost a redemption story across the board.
It feels like a team who are greater than the sum of their parts. It really feels like, you know, it's not just about we have like the strongest individuals, like a team like Top Esports, for example. It's about the team play, working together as a unit, and as you said, that redemption. But now with the Baron and the Soul, yeah, this is pretty much what I expect. Good luck, TT. Give it a go.
God bless TT. Here we go. Last fight comes on in Dawning Shadow for the shields here. And I mean, AL don't even need to fight this one. They can just whittle away at the tower.
All the souls.
I know. This is a Senna's wet dream right here. Isn't the go Hoya? Gets it all onto Forge. He just turns gold and keeps himself safe. Down goes Kepler. Down goes YaoYao. Down goes Hoya. And Ucal, you might be next on the chopping block, my friend. Gets back onto the fountain. And AL grab an exceptionally clean win against TT.
And, you know, I said that with AL, you never feel like the game is over because they'll always be willing to fight back from a deficit. I was wrong. The game is over if they get a lead, as we saw there. Still maintaining that 100% win rate when they have a lead at 15. And it kind of shows why you have to shut this team down early. And it feels like TT didn't have the agency in the early game, didn't get things rolling soon enough, and they fell behind, just never had a look in.
And I feel like this is such a weird game to me because we talked about TT having this aggressive early game, right? Being able to build leads for themselves, then kind of losing track of those leads later on, losing when it came to the team fights. When you look at the draft, like banning so many aggressive AD carries, banning so many ways to have priority in the bottom side, to have proactivity in the early game, and then drafting this Viktor and Jinx. Like, I like the idea of trying to diversify your style moving forwards, but when you're as far down the standings as TT are, I feel like double down on the things that have worked for you and try and find wins that way.
Yeah, I feel like you should lean into your strengths rather than trying to, like, I mean, I do understand you want to have some late game insurance, but even then, I feel like the other comps where they had the strong early still had some late game insurance. I know you're worried about going up against AL because you think, oh, you know, if we do go late, it's probably rough, but this inactivity just isn't going to work out, isn't going to end up favoring you too well. And we saw it just panned out in that manner. And, you know, we were talking a bit before about the goal difference of 15 for TT, how it was second in the league. That loss, because there was like a 3,000 deficit at 15, that just shaved about 160 off their stat. Just that game alone probably dropped them down a few places.
Yeah, that's a rough one for TT. That's going to drop them a couple of places on the ladder as well. So, unfortunate loss there for TT. And I have to say, it was kind of sad to see the early ones where you saw TT, like the first Drake of the game. They started off, they're all grouped up, they've got priority in mid and bot lane. They see that the fight's coming and they just leg it, right? And then they move 3 people up towards Herald. They even get a Poppy ult onto someone and have a 3v2, but they back away and don't opt into the fight. And I feel like it's one of these things where, look, I get it, you've drafted scaling, but then if that's the case, don't commit to that play. Play opposite, right? Play on the other side of the map to your opponent. Don't just turn up to these objectives, but then not try and get them.
Yeah, I think the problem as well is that with scaling is people sometimes have this conception that scaling is always like Kale. Like you do nothing and then late game you're strong. But there's a ton of picks, and honestly, these are often the best picks are the ones where, yes, they scale exceptionally, but they are also good in the rest of the game as well. That's when those picks tend to be broken. I think this is a problem is that for TT, their picks were inactive. Their picks were leaning into the late stages. They didn't have a lane to play through. You know, they had some early bot and mid prio, and that was kind of it. Top didn't go well. Mid, you know, Ucal wasn't really able to do something. We've seen before Ucal being super proactive on things like the Twisted Fate. That didn't really come out. The Poppy as well definitely felt like a more defensive one. So just, I think it doesn't need to completely change. I think still having some scaling insurance is fine, but pick a lane that you're going to play through early and get that lead on. Otherwise, we'll just have a repeat of this one.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. I'm hoping for a big old change